Okay. So, this is going to be an interesting one today. I'm going to be playing around with creative limitation. Yes. Creative limitation. What's the point? Why limit yourself? Well, I find creative limitation really useful as a learning tool. So you can choose an area that you want to develop in terms of your skill level. And then you can use certain creative limitations to make that easier. So let me give you an example. I thought it could be cool to try to focus on melodic composition. And from there, I came up with an idea for a creative limitation where, what if I write a whole track with only allowing myself sine waves as the source material? So I'll allow effects, but just sine waves. And basically the point there is to really maximize the melodic aspect, because I'm going to have to really lean into that to make up for the use of only having sine waves. So basically this is just an exercise I came up with, thinking about, well, you know, if I write a whole track with just sine waves and I don't really worry about the sound design until later, like I can always go back in and sound design, then I can probably write it pretty quickly, and I can also really kind of hone in on the melodic aspect, which could be interesting. So I am going to start out with a faceplant, of course. Excuse me. And let's get a sine wave out. So one thing I've noticed that I just want to bring to the attention of the team, just in case they somehow see this. There's other harmonics on your sine wave. See that little thing poking up? What is this? If I turn this way up, you'll see those harmonics. What is that? What's up with that? I've just been wondering what that is, because once I start to distort these, I do end up hearing that. So, you know, maybe take a look at that, people who are designing faceplant. But if you want a clean sine wave, just use the analog oscillator. See, there's no harmonics. So this is going to be all focused on the fundamentals. So what are the fundamentals of a synth patch? Well, we have our volume envelope, and that's really going to allow us to choose what type of sound this is. We want a plucky sound. And it sounds like kind of like a xylophone. If we want like a kind of a more pad sound, we can give it an attack. And one thing that I find sounds really great on sine waves is convolution reverb. So I'll show you this free convolution reverb called Convolution XT that I like. So I really like capture. I like starting out just noodling, and if I noodle something that I like out of nowhere on the keyboard, I'll just hit that little capture button, and Ableton gets it for me. So that's kind of an interesting sound. So how can we beef this up? I said, you know, I'm only allowing myself sine waves, but there's a caveat. We can have a lot of sine waves. And we're going to use a lot of sine waves because we're only allowed sine waves. So we're going to use a lot of them. So I'm going to duplicate this. And now I have another oscillator, and I can use this harmonic to pitch this up. Now we're doing additive synthesis. So what I can do is I can give this a different envelope here. And let's try maybe some unison. Alright, so I'm liking that sound. Let's pull this into the upper tonal group here. And now I will put a bass under it. So I'm going to replace this wavetable with a sine wave because I said we were only allowed sine waves. So let's go for our sine wave. So I'll duplicate that 4 times so that we now have a nice little 8-bar chunk. And what if we do a kind of a typical trap? Let's try going down a 5th, like typical trap. So let's go down to the D. So I'll show you a cool trick here with 808. See, sometimes instead of doing like an FM, you can get a really cool sound by just distorting a couple sine waves together. So if we duplicate our sine wave here and then pitch this up a bunch of harmonics, maybe go for the 8 so far, turn it down, and then we can play with this individual volume envelope and create a kind of an interesting top harmonic ratio thing going on here. wave. So I'm gonna get a phase plant out, facade, phase plant. Let's put it on the kick drum. Let's just replace this whole rack with this. All right, let's get our analog oscillator, sine wave. And then we're gonna want a curve, and we want it to be on off, and then we'll do just a kind of a typical pitch envelope on the master tune here. Polyphony down to 1, legato. Not that that really matters for kick drum, but let's do a simple kick drum. So obviously that's not a kick drum. So what we're gonna have to do is pitch it down. It's key tracking right now, which I like. And you can turn the key tracking off in phase plant if you want, by turning the harmonic ratio down to 0 and then tuning it with the shift amount. And that will allow you to get an oscillator that's not gonna track the pitch of the MIDI that's coming in. But I'll leave that on tuned, and then I can just use a MIDI pitch plugin to pitch this around. So then I'm going to tweak this envelope until it's a little bit shorter, and I'm also going to give this a bit of a decay envelope here. Get a little bit of a distortion out just to give it a little bit of a clip. All right, let's hear that in context and tweak it from there. Instrument here to send the MIDI to the sidechained group so that I can get this ducking going on. The typical envelope, and this will give me a little bit more control over the shape of the volume that my kick drum's doing. I'll turn this grid right up so that I can really get granular with it. this, take this, and duplicate it over to the snare drum. Like this. Boom. PP snare. Tricky. Let's make a hi-hat out of a sine wave. So let's get an analog sine wave, and I think I'll just start by like doing a really high-pitched kind of little perk rhythm thingy. One thing that helps to get more metallic texture into a sound is like a comb filter. And there's this pretty cool like free comb filter that comes with the Melda free bundle. Oops, that's the convolution. So it's just called M comb, and it's just a basic, simple, easy to use 4 delay line comb filter. gonna add in a couple more harmonics. Half time on the hats, and then let's duplicate this patch and see where we can take it next. So let's layer another patch of this sine wave over top. Maybe let's take all this MIDI and pitch it up a couple octaves. Let's get arpeggiator out. Let's send it to lane 2, and then let's send lane 2 to the master instead of this distortion, and let's just put like a convolution on this. Let's try like some of these glitches are pretty cool. turnaround or a pickup here. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we have these hats come in early, that's a pickup. Maybe I'll withhold that kick there and get rid of this hat here, so there's a little pause. To have like a lead come in. So let's get a little melody, a little sine wave. And something I really like doing with sine waves is just taking two of them and kind of detuning them. So and then if we make kind of a gliding patch, polyphony 1, legato, it's got this cool kind of Reese-y rhythm to it. Alright, so that was kind of a cool little little ditty there. expand my creative limitation just slightly to include noise, because sine waves and noise are basically like the two polar opposites. One is a pure harmonic, and the other one has all the harmonics. So when you pair the two together, it's really easy to create most sounds just with those two things. So let's pull out a noise oscillator here and a filter, and this will help us get a better hat. Alright, so then let's go ahead and add a little bit of noise to this lead. And you're going to see me repeatedly doing this with the noise, where I'll have dual filters, creating a bandpass, and then maybe modulating one or both of those filters with a note plugin, so that the cutoff of the filter follows along with the pitch of the MIDI sequence that I have going into the oscillator. And we can make this sound more like a flute if we use, instead of a regular envelope, we use a curve. And then we can do something like an infinite loop. And then we can have this come in here. This is like the sustain mode. Actually, we could do sustain, so that that's sustaining on the MIDI note. And then I'll craft this envelope to kind of help this feel more like a flute. So flute has like a burst of noise at the beginning, and then it kind of like tapers off, but then it goes as you like kind of blow into it, you know? Right there, I was just using Control to temporarily lock it to the grid. If you don't want to go over here and undo or redo this little magnet lock, that if you just hold Control, it'll let you snap to the grid temporarily, kind of the same as like in Ableton. I think that's how it works. So let's maybe get a really low oscillator and amplitude modulate this a bit. So I'm going to pitch this sine wave down like 36, which is 3 octaves, and then use it to modulate the level, and that will do a ring mod, or i.e. amplitude modulation. just map a MIDI note or a MIDI knob to this drive amount on the saturator, and I'm just going to play a little bit of this while I record Automate. Yeah, I just wanted a little bit of playful movement on that lead there. Snare to the snare. Now that we're allowed to use noise, I'm going to add a noise to the snare. Let's use another curve instead of the typical envelope here, and let's get a bit of a kind of a clappy thing going. Alright, so let's actually now go add in some noise to the kick drum as well. And again, I'm going to use a curve instead of the normal envelope, and again, dual filters to create a band pass, variable band pass. Turn it way down, shorten it way up. See, we can add a little bit of a rattle in if we amplitude modulate from the sub of the kick to the noise of the kick. Just a subtle rattle, it just kind of glues the two together. So let's add in some more harmonics to this, because we have two harmonics so far. Let's maybe duplicate this whole thing and then loop this part, and let's duplicate this patch to start out with. So whenever I'm wondering like where am I going to go in a track, just duplicate and change. Duplicate and change. I can't preach that enough. It's the easiest way to just go forward in a track. You can duplicate it, and then as long as you duplicated it, you can change it, and you still have the old thing, so it's like total stress off your back, and it's a brand new thing, and it's also really speeding up your workflow because you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from wherever you left off. Harmonic, and this new harmonic, we could get kind of maybe some rhythm in here. So these have loop modes right here, so we could do like infinite, and then we can sync this. So this is effectively now synced LFO. Patch, and then delete the MIDI from the old ones so that we now have a duplicate that we can change. And let's play around with this. This reverb has a really cool button here that lets you reverse the convolution impulse. It's very kind of hit or miss with plugins, convolution plugins. Like, they don't always let you do this, but keep an eye out for convolution plugins that let you have a reverse button. It's super cool. So we can hit reverse now, and then all these will be kind of reversed. so let's program a little bit more humanity into our hat. One thing that's kind of cool I found is Unperfect. And this is a free Max for Live device on maxforlive.com, and it just kind of like adds in variable randomness to the timing. And then you can see it also has a velocity randomness, so we could get a velocity plugin out inside Phase Plant and map that to some things like the length of the decay, or let's do the curve. And then we could maybe have like an EQ. Let's do the carve EQ and just put a... Oh, wait, I don't like the carve EQ. Let's go slice EQ, and then let's do shelf. And then we can open up the filters here. We can actually modulate these. So let's go for this. Let's just kind of modulate the gain. And then let's delete, or let's duplicate and change our lead here. Maybe I'll get rid of this echo mode and let's play around with this. I'm just gonna duplicate this whole group and then maybe pitch this differently. Cool. Let's do Timeless 3. because the other one's more stationary. So let's maybe like just try something like this. Switch up in vibe. It's kind of a switch up. So what if we did like new snare? So let's just take our MIDI and shift it up to that new snare. Because there's another reverb happening at the same time, and so you can't really hear either of the reverbs. And then what if we pitch this down an octave too? This reverb to turn off like right here too. And then maybe we just like start to filter that out too. Like this. Filtering. So what I'm just gonna do is just record some automation here. I guess the reverb's coming from this echo bud, so let's modulate this too. I think it's just too much here at the end. And then let's cut the drums a little bit after that. Oops, I just typed ill. Far away. Yeah, Ill Gates Far Away rack's pretty freaking cool. I do like it a lot. You basically just twist one knob and it makes the thing go away. It's just so useful. I'm also going to want to ease up on the side chain. It's cool. If you ever want to like push your sound into a whole new domain, just try one of these creative limitation exercises. Because I'm doing like very different stuff because of the fact that I'm limited to sine waves and noise. Like I've literally used no samples. It's just phase plant, sine, and noise. It kind of falls off there at the end. There's too many layers happening at once, so I'm just gonna fix that. Wobble with this filter so that it's really kind of out of the way except for that dotted, and then have it reset on every bar. I could actually do that on I could do that on this also. So let's get that modulation line open and then just paste this automation. Could like invert it by using control. Open it up a little more. Oh, this EQ maybe isn't having the effect I want because it's after that. It needs to be after that, so I'm gonna do it like that. Wait, I'm trying to modulate this. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. And then like invert this automation so it's converse to this. Maybe we could have the reverb back on this. Let's do it to this one as well. So I'm gonna paste it here. But since this is a dotted rhythm, what's cool about this is we could maybe just have it start on the half bar, and that could give an interesting relationship. Yeah, so that's cool. Let's also do it on the filter. Let's do it on everything. Let's use like a shimmer to just wash these hats out. And like at the same time, let's kind of filter them out. Cool. So now we have a little beat made of nothing but sine waves. Dude, this is fun. I actually need to do this more. This is kind of a cool sound. I actually may have just stumbled upon something that I really like. I've never done this, by the way. This was totally just a first try. Alright, the timing is like off on this. What is going on? Aha! So let's like see what this, let's see how sine waves and noise do in the mastering process. Let's give this a little bit of a quick squeeze with the almighty Elevate on the Sephiros mastering preset that's like plug and play. Boom, and then let's hear it. Say you can't push it as hard because sine waves, they really it's easy to hear clipping on sine waves, so it's, you can't maybe push this as hard as like a very distorted sounding mix, but yeah, I mean, we're still basically pushing it into like 5-6 LUFS and it sounds more or less clean.
All right, sorry, I was just playing with Insight there. Insight's a pretty cool plugin. I don't really understand how to like use the spectrogram. Like I don't know how it's like telling me where there's problems. Maybe you can comment below like how I'm actually supposed to use it, because I always just think it looks so cool that I like forget to actually think about it in terms of mixing at all. I just look at it and I'm like, wow, this is cool looking. But yeah, I hope you learned something about creative limitation and cool ways to use phase plant without, relying on crazy wavetables. Like, you can do infinite amounts of things with just a sine wave and noise. That's like, you could take anything, you could take the worst sample ever. You could go record the wind distorting your iPhone mic, and then you could bring that into phase plant and make a whole track with it that sounds good. I guarantee it. There's ways to do stuff in sound design regardless of the source material, and don't shy away from using source material that's maybe lo-fi or like not pleasing to the ear at first. Sometimes it's cool to like carve away at a block of shit and create like a diamond, so it's a very fun like kind of alchemical process. And this is a really good way to spark inspiration, just creating limitations where you're just playing in this realm. You created a realm and now you're playing in it, and you don't have to worry about reaching for all these different tools. Like, just write a whole track with nothing but phase plant. That's how you're going to learn phase plant fast. If you want to learn phase plant, just use it for everything. And, people may recommend you not do this because you want to get like a nice range of different colors. But, that's just one way of looking at things. A big influence on my music is modernist art and the kind of the minimalist modern art, like paintings, like maybe, like one of the big influences, Rothko. And he was a painter who really demonstrated the power of simplicity, and how when you limit a palette to one or two colors, then within each of those colors is an infinite range of types of that color. And depending on how the light hits it, it comes to life in a whole new way. And so I'm kind of trying to recreate that sort of concept in music here by like, look at how when you use really simple sounds that are just made with a couple sine waves and some noise and it's very stripped back, then when you use crazy things like convolution reverb, the convolution reverb can really come to the forefront because it's taking all those little details out of those simple sounds and putting it in the space. And so I find that convolution reverb sounds really extra good on sounds that are hyper clean and like super precise, but also very stripped back and minimal. So, it's like, if you really want to get a lot of juice out of a convolution reverb, this is a fun kind of technique. So yeah, if you're interested in sounds, I give them away on my Patreon. There's a tier for there, and then there's going to be more tutorials on the Patreon as well. I do lessons on there, so that's how you get a hold of me. Until next time, I'm Sephiros. Big up and peace.